to The Collective, a Shine a Light TV podcast.
Hello friends in Kababayan. Today is a very special episode of The Collective because we're going to talk about something very important, not only to the Filipino community, but also the Asian community, and I'm hoping all the communities all together, which is education. So thank you so much for joining us at The Collective. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, the honor's all ours. So today I'm wearing this UCLA jersey because we are both students of the University of California system here in the States. And so education is very important to both of us.
Yes.
And so you're an educator. You're a very well-respected educator. So again, thank you again for coming on board. Now, the very first question that I have for you is, what's your favorite Filipino food?
Pancit.
Pancit?
Yes.
From do you know from where, or from like your friends' houses or anything?
From my friend's house. Yeah, from my friend's mom's home cooking.
Okay.
Yes.
And you are you're of Cambodian culture. You're Cambodian.
Yes.
And so what is I'm going to tell you my favorite Cambodian food, and that's prohok, which is kind of
that's the stinky stuff.
That's the great stuff. So yeah, I really appreciate the food there, and I appreciate your culture as well.
Likewise.
All right. So today we're going to get into education, and of course, like the sometimes the pressure that I'm a parent, and the pressure that parents and our culture puts upon our students or our children.
Yes.
So one of the first questions that I ask you as an educator is, what should parents try to understand, and the misconceptions that they have of the goals of a classroom?
So, education is a really vast world of not just education. It comprises of many things that we as educators need to address amongst our students. And I think the misconception of a teacher just educating their child with all the core subjects, reading, writing, math, is not what we're solely there for. There are many other hats that we wear, especially after the pandemic, is ensuring their mental health.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
That is really huge, and that has affected a lot of our students' academic progress. And, you know, again, that does relate to education. Education is educating students academically, but also socially and emotionally. So I think the misconception is that teachers are just there just to educate students with reading, writing, and whatnot. But it's more than that. You know, we have to be there for them emotionally. We have to teach them life skills. We have to educate them on how to be responsible citizens of this world. There's so many components.
That seems like a lot of responsibility on you and your fellow educators.
Yes.
So wow, because I know there's a lot of feelings that teachers are just like robots, that they're just to teach there from like 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then, you know, if the students get it, they get it. If they don't, it's on you. So, wow, that is a lot of pressure on you. So, wow.
That is another misconception, is that teachers just work that 8 to 3 job and they just go home. But what parents don't realize is we carry the workload home. Not only do we have to grade assignments, but we think about your child, like at night when we're going to sleep, about how well they're doing, how well their well-being is. And as an educator, we have to look at things in many different perspectives and lenses. And you know, sometimes we have to think about a lot more than just educating your child. It's a whole child, you know, the whole being.
That's pretty amazing. Like that. Seriously, I've never thought of it that way. I just thought of teachers as someone who teaches. So again, that is great. That's also a lot of pressure, which is the next thing. So, what are some expectations that you have for your class, for your students?
I have very high expectations for all of my students. My students, each and every one of them has a story behind who they are, where they come from. They all have different cultural backgrounds, different needs, and so I try to address each and every one of their needs.
Right, so each student is absolutely important to you and their stories and their progression and their performance. Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yes. So I try to meet the needs of all my students' academic needs, as well as their social and emotional needs, because I think that is similarly important to their well-being as a whole person.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. Which is the next thing is that, do you believe that there's an unfair, or I'm not saying fair, do you believe that the Asian community puts more pressure on our children, and why? I already know the answer to this. So.
So I can speak from experience personally and professionally. Personally, of course, my parents are Asian, and they place a tremendous emphasis on their child or their children succeeding.
Okay.
And in education. And so I understand when it comes to having students of my own who are Asian and want the best for their child.
Yeah, so why do you think that our parents or our cultures, Filipino culture including, very much included, because I know I went through this, why do you think that is? And I'll say from my personal experience, I felt sometimes that my parents, from my cousins and my family, wanted this pressure because they didn't want to look bad.
That's one of the factors.
Okay.
I think one of the main factors, however, is that parents who have immigrated from a different country into America, there's a great disparity between those who have immigrated than those who have lived here.
Okay.
And so they want the best for their child, more so than what they had growing up. And then it evolves into, how are you raising your child compared to how others are raising their child?
Yes, the comparison is
and
crazy.
And the comparison, the competition is intense.
It sucks sometimes, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers can understand this.
Yes.
So, what do you feel like the expectation should be for all parents, actually, for their children?
So, I'm a parent first, I'm an educator second. And as a parent, there's no one size fits all to parenting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you need to be in tune with who your child is, what their potential is, and address that with your child. I don't think that comparing or having your child compete against their...
Stop comparing and competing, parents.
Right.
Stop comparing and put pressure off your kids.
Yes.
And
just be compassionate and empathetic about where their, education is and how they are learning as a person.
Right, because I've heard stories from kids starting off at second grade already being put on Kumon or other other ways of teaching or that stuff just to improve their grades, and that's, to me, a kid can't be a kid because he has so much pressure on himself, right? And do you face that with your students?
I do. The majority of the demographic of students I work with are about 70% Asian.
Ooh.
And I have experienced many situations where students are under tremendous stress and due to their parents' demands and expectations of them. As an educator, I have to look at it different perspectives. I understand their background as I'm empathetic to that, and I relate to that. But I'm also a parent, an Asian parent, who has to, and through my experience, I have a different take on it because I've witnessed so many students being distressed with their parents' expectations.
Ooh, yeah. Like I don't know, and I don't think there's any cutoff date. Like, okay, once you hit, being a sophomore in high school, that's when you should be good, because I don't think that's right either. So, what do you do with students that don't meet expectations? Like, what's next for them? What do you feel like is a good kind of like resolution or talking point for those students that don't meet the expectations of the parents?
Communication is huge for me, and especially communicating with parents.
Okay.
It's not one for me to tell a parent how to parent their child.
Oh, yeah.
I can give them my expertise advice about education. I can speak with them with compassion and be an advocate for their child on the other side of where they may not be seeing these downfalls or these affects of the parenting that they have on their child. So I think for me is I want to educate parents on how to address certain issues with their child, and that's as much input I can.
Yes. Communication is always key.
Resistance.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you there. Now, I'm in my mid-40s, so back in my days when I was in school, I never spoke up, and my parents put pressure on me and my siblings and my family to succeed, but we never said anything, and that was kind of like at times I felt it was harder than the Marine Corps boot camp, because if I didn't succeed, I would get punished physically, and that held a lot of emotional trauma, I could say. And so I'm hoping that this new generation of students speak up more. So you've experienced that as well, I'm assuming.
I have experienced both. I have experienced students who do not speak up because they are afraid of the repercussions of what their parents would say or the consequences they would receive if it got back to their parents. I've also been on the other side with students where they have addressed their concerns and their distress and on how their parents are putting this extreme pressure on them to excel academically.
Okay. So have any parents reached out to you, like asking you to teach more, I guess, or
Yes.
to really?
Of course, yes. And it is, from my experience, it's mostly from the Asian community where their child is not getting enough assignments, or they want more. They want their child to perhaps be given the next grade level.
Are you serious?
Resources,
Wow.
so they can be ahead of their peers.
Wow, that is a lot of expectations and more pressure. So yeah, I totally believe that communication, to the parents, to the students, and to the educators yourself is a good place to start.
Yes.
Now, we're gonna bring up this question is what is a helicopter parent?
Yeah, the common definition of a helicopter parent education is a parent or parents who are excessively involved in their child's education and is very persistent with receiving all of the resources, all of the support they can from educators and the school.
And what are the pros and cons of that? Because you probably get texts like in the middle of the night.
I do. I do.
Of asking why,
That has not been uncommon. So the pros, as an educator, I have to look at parents and students through different lenses and different perspectives. And the pros of a helicopter parent would be their involvement in their child's education.
Yes.
And I think that is extremely important, where some students are lacking that. Parental involvement. Another is they're teaching their child clear expectations on what they want for their child and what goals they want them to achieve. The parents are setting up them for real life situations. In the real life, you have to really, try to succeed, and there's going to be failures along the way. But if you really want to get there and achieve highly, then that is, a characteristic that students need, is that resilience and that persistent.
Yeah. So, I know my parents were more like a stealth bomber. They were kind of like lurking in the background, waiting for mistakes, and they would jump on me for mistakes. But helicopter parents, I could see the goodness of it all, because you are involved.
Yes.
So I know a lot of cultures, the parents don't get involved at all unless you mess up. So that's a good thing. So do you feel that there is pressure amongst the children to compete amongst themselves?
That would be the cons of being a helicopter parent, is that the students, it affects them mentally, socially. I think that it, in a sense, leaves them to have lower self-confidence as they make mistakes and they fail. Some students don't know how to cope with that, and that's tough. I feel like on their mental health.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, there's enough pressure already, and then for this competition, especially for the younger students, it's definitely detrimental. But I'm glad that you're there to listen, and hope that your fellow educators are there listening as well. And so that, again, totally did not see from the perspective that you're also taking care of your students, not just to teach them like 1 + 1 = 2.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I learned that. But also to know that if a student has an issue with learning, that you're there to actually set up a plan or talk to them about this in order to achieve their goals.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what are some suggestions that you have to align both parents and educators like yourself for the benefit of the children? Like, what can we do to help our kids be more, productive and successful as both a parent and a teacher?
I think rapport is essential. Parent and teacher rapport. I think trust is another
Yes.
factor into building that relationship with the student and parents. Just having parents in trust in the educator or the teacher that they're doing their best.
We are on the same team here.
To educate
Yeah, we're on the same team. We're not.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, and what is something that you as an educator, or things that you're hoping that your children take away from your class? What are you hoping that they learn?
I hope they learn how to be kind and compassionate human beings who are productive citizens in our society. They can be successful in any way. They can be a doctor, but they can also go to a trade school and be the best
Yes, thank you for saying that.
mechanic. It is their true best that I want to see when they grow up. And it could be in any field, as long as they're happy and they're thriving and they're productive. That's what's really important to me. And also just being able to celebrate their own successes and be accountable for that, and just understanding that, you have to work hard. You have to try your best. And if you do, then you'll succeed. And so everything else will follow.
So that's an awesome answer, because that question was set up so you might have said math. Like they have to know algebra, like from at age 6. But it sounds to me like you just want people to learn a life lesson, or to just be a good person that's open to, possibilities.
Exactly.
And I think that's great. I think we should pass that along, not only to our children but to our peers. Is that we as Asians, and of course other cultures, we face so much pressure and expectations that we need to kind of remember that we're humans first.
Yes.
And have compassion. We might watch Housewives. I watch Housewives. So we can get our drama there. We can watch sports and be competitive.
Exactly.
But grand scale things, we are all in this. We are a collective.
Yes.
Yes. This
we
podcast
are
name.
collective.
This podcast name after that, because we are all together. And so I really appreciate you coming on. I hope I've learned a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I hope our audience has learned a lot.
I hope so too.
Yes, so thank you so much. And you definitely put you gave a lot of confidence to my faith in our teachers, our educators, and everybody out there. And to our students as well. If you're listening to this with your parents globally, not just in the United States, be human first.
Yes.
And, if there is pressure, just know that you're not the only one, but we made it. You will too. Just be human first. And so again, thank you so much for being in the collective.
Thank you.
If you would like to be part of this conversation, go ahead at itsonsalt.com. And again, we thank you so much. Maraming salamat po. And I'm hungry, so I think I'm gonna go eat some Cambodian food right now with some pancit.
Oh, some pancit.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.